My name is Beezito and you're watching the weekly news tech roundup. Let's go ahead and start us off with our first story. For our first article, we have the RX9070 GRE. Yes, there is a GRE model and it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM at the moment, and we're looking at a rumor that might push it up to 16 gigabytes. So that's an extra 4, putting it into the realm of RX9070XT and the normal 9070 VRAM range. So this is pretty interesting, and it's a leak from board channels and it's from VideoCardz.com. So just keep in mind as well that this is actually a rumor at the moment, so it's not confirmed, and apparently it's meant to happen within the next 2 months. So it's interesting that AMD is actually doing this, or could be doing this, because the other models like the 7900 GRE from memory sold really well when they were out in the last generation. So I think maybe the 12 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes might help the RX 9070 lineup sell a little bit more than it already has been. So AMD has an interesting perspective on this, and apparently they might be doing a wider memory bus and higher bandwidth, but of course there's no specifications that have exactly been confirmed just yet. So we're yet to see anything confirmed from AMD, but hopefully in the next 2 months we see the 16 gigabyte one instead of the 12 gigabyte one. Next up, we have our first reported case of an RX 9070XT with a 16-pin connector melting. Now this applies, I believe, for the ASRock model, the one that I have, and the Sapphire Nitro, as far as I can remember. I believe there might be one other model that uses it as well, but I think it's just those 2 or 3, the one I'm forgetting at the moment. But yes, so this happened according to a Reddit user, and they have their original Reddit post on it as well. So according to them, they were using a 700 watt co-link power supply, so technically below the 850 watt power supply rating that it's supposed to have on this model of RX 9070 XT, and it was not ATX 3.1 compliant. So this was the ASRock Taichi OC model, which is a bit concerning. That's the model that I have in my PC. And they were using the adapter, so that converts the 3 8-pins into the 16-pin connector. And they reported that this happened just after unplugging it 4 times. So that's literally nothing. Now, I don't think that the 16-pin connector is very good. I have seen lots of arguments made against it. But I guess in this instance, we can't 100% say that it is user related and that it was a user error. But again, these connectors are a little bit fragile. In my own personal opinion, and from what I've seen anecdotally with my graphics card, a single case, I've unplugged it multiple times, more than 4 easily. I've put other graphics cards in sometimes to play around with, and yeah, it is a bit fragile, but I have used it multiple times with the adapter as well. So I don't use it directly from my power supply. It's using the 3x8 pin adapter. So a little bit interesting that this happened. And yes, this RX 9070 XT can pull a lot of wattage. I have seen it personally. Just to add on to that as well, the user reported that the graphics card side didn't have any melting, and it was just the adapter side that goes into the graphics card, so just the male port. And we can see that on the pins there, it is a little bit melted. So we can leave this up to a couple of things. The first one is that he was using a 700 watt power supply that was not ATX 3.1 and is not the correct wattage. The second thing is that he was using a adapter, which it could be as well. And then it could be user error as well. So we're not 100% sure on this, but I do know, in my opinion, when you plug in the 16-pin connector, you need to make sure that it's plugged in properly. I actually made a video on this the other day when I saw this article. So when you plug in the 16-pin connector and on this RX9070XT Taichi OC, when you plug it in, it feels like it's in, but then you really need to plug it in and it will have a audible click. So you'll literally hear like, or an actual click. So if you guys go ahead and watch my video, you'll see how you can click it in properly. And I think that's super important. Could be user error, or the last one again, could be that this connector just sucks. So it could have been one of those things, but we're not 100% sure. And hopefully this doesn't pop up more often. I even own the card myself, so I really hope that doesn't happen. But that's yet to be seen. Following on from that story, ASRock has released a connector for the 16-pin connector that is L-shaped and has built-in overheating. So it has a sensor in it that should be able to detect rising temperatures and can alert the user before damage actually happens. It also uses a green tip to show the user where to plug it in properly, but unfortunately this will only be available for the ASRock power supplies. So of course this won't be for every single one, and we have seen this similar to MSI's one as well, but that's yet to be seen if this will actually help out. So the fact that we have to have a sensor in the cable is a little bit disturbing, but at least it's a good solution, at least at the moment, to try and help people find out before things get too hot and they melt the connector. So yeah, it is that, but I just hope we stop seeing these connectors melting going forward. So on our next article, AMD has apparently removed some of the components from the top of the 7800X3D. So if we have a look at this article from WCCFTech, a number of users have reported this over the last couple of months, and year or so I have seen it myself as well. So some people are saying there is a design change, some people are saying that it's fake, but the fact is that it is a design change. I actually own the 7800X3D without the components at the top of it. So for me, over here in my 7800X3D from AliExpress video, mine is missing it. And it is actually real. So let me open up Task Manager for you guys. It'll take a second because it's in my other screen. Then I pop down here. There we go. 7800X3D. Functioning as it should. And I believe if you did receive a fake CPU, as far as I know, it probably won't work or will come up with the wrong CPU. So this is a design change, and it's good that it's kind of been confirmed now. So even for myself, I can say that mine is real. It's not fake. It is from AliExpress, but a lot of people have seen this. So I believe it's not just with the OEM CPUs that I have, like the tray CPUs. Some people from retail apparently from memory have had it as well. I do believe as well Debara went over a fake 7800X3D as well in his video, and he outlined why it was fake in his video. But as far as the design change, this is actually a real design change, and there doesn't seem to be any difference in performance, at least from what I can see with my personal one. Even in my own thumbnail as well, you can see that it's missing the components there. So yeah, I don't believe there's any real issue in receiving the one that has the design change. But it is something that people weren't fully aware of, so it's important to note. Also, if you're on the lookout for a new 7800X3D or any other CPU, even from AliExpress, I made a video outlining the pros and cons in buying from AliExpress for a CPU. And if you want to find a legitimate place to buy from on AliExpress, OzBargain is also a very good place to buy from. So as you can see here, they have listings for many deals, including CPUs, and usually the all trusted sellers that get put on here. Our next piece of news is NVIDIA releasing a new DLSS SDK. So this is for 310.4. And it's pretty interesting here. So they've removed all the presets A through E and they've introduced J and K in their place. So if you guys want to have a play around with these presets, I've made a video on how to force DLSS 4 in most games. Check out that video if you really want to. NVIDIA have also put a new preset of G and H that are unused at the moment, so they were reserved probably for future development, but it says here, and they might be working on some new models, which is interesting for DLSS. A little bit of a smaller news piece, but that's what it is for the new NVIDIA DLSS SDK. Lastly, we have a small piece of news. The Nintendo Switch has sold more than 2 million units in the US alone since its release on June 26th, 2025. So it's been almost 2 months, I believe, probably exactly more than 2 months, and it's pretty impressive that the fact that it has done so well so far. So it says here that it's put the Switch to 75% ahead of the original pace of the original Switch. So I guess that does make sense given the fact that the Switch's popularity had increased over time and it has a pretty big fan base. But I find it pretty interesting that it's 75% ahead of the Switch 1's pace. So it's good to see that it is selling. I'm just personally a little bit concerned about the controller, but I'm not much of a big Switch fan, but we'll see how that connector does, and as well as concerns with the screen. But it is what it is, and if people like that, that's all more power to them. So we'll see how the Switch 2 plays out going forward, but hopefully it should be good in the handheld space for gaming. That about wraps up our first week of weekly tech news. So I'm a little bit nervous today. Sorry, it's my first time doing something like this in a while. So let me know how I'm doing and what I can improve on. And let me know what you think of these stories. That 16-pin connector melting is interesting. And should AMD bring the RX9070 GRE more global? So let me know what you think in the comments. But other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!